Mileage-based taxes, very interesting, very controversial. They've started a pilot program on this in Oregon, so this is something that's happening, where instead of paying gas taxes, you pay by the miles that you travel. Do it by GPS in your car, and that keeps track of it. There's a lot of good things that can come from it. A, you can adjust that based on the size of the car, what type of roads you're riding on. That GPS can tell if you're on a local road with a small car, or if you're a big SUV on an interstate, and kind of adjust the rate accordingly. It's a very good way to ensure that people who are driving a lot pay for those roads. However, when I read transportation riders who advocate for it, a lot of those people don't seem to share the very legitimate privacy concerns that a lot of people out there have. I certainly share those privacy concerns. I have no desire for the government to know where I'm going at all times, and I think there's a lot of questions. Of course, they say they'll never use it for anything but the tax, but you know, most of the people here aren't probably believing that, and I agree with you. We actually have a way in Missouri that could address this if you paid your mileage tax as part of your simple annual inspection at your repair shop, where they noted your odometer reading from a year ago and noted your odometer reading from now, and you could base the tax on that if it replaced the gas tax. Not every state has that, and I don't know if the federal government would want to do that. So as I'll say, repeat it twice, I think there's a lot of potential for mileage-based taxes, but in my opinion, only if the privacy issues can be addressed, and I'm not sure they ever can be addressed. General sales taxes. We do not impose the state sales tax on the purchase of gasoline. Some other states do. This is very interesting. We certainly can do it, and that would raise revenue quickly. But that's one of the reasons. As politicians, they did it at the national level a lot through these energy gas spikes. Because we pay gas taxes by the gallon, as opposed to sales taxes, which are a percentage of price. As gas prices rise, get up to $3 or $4 a gallon, the tax level actually becomes a smaller portion of that gas, not a larger one. So elected officials who propose these $4 gallon gas, let's eliminate the gas tax for a little bit. I don't think they realize how little they might be accomplishing. For example, 17 cents a gallon at $1 gas is 17% of the bill. If you get up to $4 a gallon gas, it's just 4% of the bill. I mean, it's not as smart a way as some people seem to think. And if you wanted to accuse elected officials of grandstanding, that probably wouldn't be the first time that it ever happened. Question?
One of the worries on that issue is counties that border other states would then possibly be at a disadvantage for, like, for instance, West Quincy versus Quincy, Illinois, Chicago and Indiana, you know, some areas down like Nebraska, you know, Iowa, whatever. Is that also a concern, you know, that we could get a decreasing return on the gas taxes if that were enacted? You know, so it would look good on paper, but we could be pushing people across the board.
Well, I think what I recall from about a year and a half ago, especially during the campaign, most of those calls came at the federal level. So that would apply 18.4 cents across the board. So, but Missouri, there's no doubt. Missouri, people come to Missouri. I'm mostly familiar with St. Louis. There's a lot of people who work in downtown St. Louis who live in Illinois. One thing they do when they're over in Missouri is they fill up with gas. They do. That's just part of it. I think the difference in price between Kansas and Missouri is a little bit lower, so you probably have a little bit less of that really going out of your way. It doesn't make much sense when you're only maybe a 2 cent per gallon difference. But you see it, and yeah, if one state froze it and another didn't, yeah, you'd have a reverse reaction to that. So, what are Missouri's options? As I think a lot of people here know, the state constitution, as interpreted by the Supreme Court, forbids the use of toll roads on the state transportation system. So in some ways, we are very limited in what we can do unless the Constitution is amended, which has been tried a few times and failed miserably. The last several times it's been tried. However, as you each have a couple policy studies in front of you, there was a poll taken about 2 years ago by Rasmussen Reports, which showed 53% of Missourians would prefer tolling over gas price increases. So maybe that's changing. And I'm going to talk about, on the next slide or two, about how that constitutional limit is not quite as dramatic as you might think. Public-private partnerships to build transportation assets. MoDOT has unsuccessfully attempted 2 of them. They have gained authority from the legislature, however, to try to use more and more of them, which is great. Eventually, we'll try one that works. They wanted to do one on the new Mississippi River Bridge over connecting downtown St. Louis to Illinois. They really wanted to do it via a privately financed toll road. Illinois objected vehemently, somewhat strangely in that there was one state which has no tolling, trying to advocate for a toll road, and one state which has extensive tolling, particularly in the northern part of the state, vehemently opposing a toll road. So it was somewhat peculiar, but it's all a moot point. It was not passed as such, probably because the federal government and Illinois are picking up the bulk of the tab, so MoDOT could not really fight that hard on something where they're paying much less of it than the other state. The other, I call it unsuccessful, would be the Safe and Sound Bridge program. That program is ongoing. It's just being used with more of the typical state transportation bonding. It was unsuccessful to be used because they tried to privately finance it, but the economy sort of sunk that after they'd moved forward with it quite far. Design build concept I throw out here because many people sort of consider it a very low level public-private partnership due to the increased cooperation between the contractors and the government. Those have worked, and MoDOT just got authority to do more of them, which is great. The new I-64 in St. Louis is an enormous design build project. I live right by it. I've always lived off of Highway 40, as we call it in St. Louis, and that project is going fantastically well. You cannot praise MoDOT and the contractors enough, and I don't say that because they don't pay me to say that. I only say it because it's true. And the Paseo Bridge in Kansas City is an ongoing project that's using a design build, and I understand the early preliminary results in that are going very well. Pilot programs, and I've got the whole quote, and I could show you. It's interesting. You may or may not know, it's generally illegal to just take a road built with gas tax dollars and toll it. Like a state can't just do that. Say we built it with gas taxes 30 years ago, now we want to toll it to make more money. However, about a decade ago, a little longer, the federal government passed a pilot program to allow a few examples of that. And little known, I-70 in Missouri is one of the programs. MoDOT applied for that pilot program and got permission. So there's only 3 allowances, and we have one of the 3. One of them is still unused right now. So as MoDOT talks about how to expand I-70, should they do truck-only lanes and all sorts, and I don't want to startle anybody. MoDOT does not plan to, their hope is not to do it as a toll road. MoDOT wants the authority to use more toll roads and kind of the outer areas, a bridge here or a special project there. They don't want to just take the major roads and toll it. I wish they did, but they do have authority to do it on I-70, which is very interesting. Question.
I have an understanding that a very large percentage of all traffic in Missouri is on I-70 between St. Louis and Kansas City. What is that percentage?
I don't know offhand. I have some, I could get that number for you easily. I've got some MoDOT reports back at the office.
It's very significant. In other words, the traffic on I-70, I mean, is 70% of all the traffic miles driven in the state of Missouri.
You know, I think I-44 is a pretty good percentage too. I don't think it would be 70%. Oh, it's very high. And I-44 is high as well. And traffic on I-44 is growing at a faster clip as the fastest growing part of our country, at least until the recent economic situation, has been the Southwest. And so I-44 traffic is growing very rapidly. But then when MoDOT talks about redoing these highways, they're talking about I-70 and I-44. They're talking about both of them. So all right. What are the ways they do it elsewhere? And there's a lot of creative ways, and I love talking about this stuff, and I hope it's as interesting to you as it is to me. You're probably familiar with high occupancy vehicle lanes. We don't have any in Missouri. I wish we did. They're fairly common in other states. They are very slowly but surely giving way to high occupancy toll lanes. I-25 in Denver is one that I've ridden on, and the concept is very simple. You have a high occupancy vehicle lane, and now they're switching it over that if you hit that occupancy requirement, 2 people, some places 3, it's still free to use that lane, that express lane. But also now, if you're just solo and you're willing to pay a toll to get into it, you can do that.